Hey guys, it's Kitten, and this is going to be my medieval Scotland past life video. Yay. Oh boy, this one is really intense and there's a lot I have to go through. But one of the things that I am gonna say now, a lot of the things that I know about this life aren't even my particular memories. They're just memories I know that other people I know who I've shared this life with experienced. So not that my past life person didn't know about this stuff, but she definitely wasn't there for those memories. I have an outline to follow because there's so much shit I need to get through and I need to stay organized for this video. Scotland has always been a place that felt so important to me. I've always, strangely, always been attracted to things set in Scotland. Scotland is like, there's just something about that place that I'm gonna call it a country because to me, in my past life experience, I know it to be a separate country from like the other United Kingdom countries. To me, Scotland is its own entity, and that's partly why I've always been kind of uncomfortable with calling it like United Kingdom, because to me, it's Scotland. It's not the United Kingdom, it's Scotland. It's just how I feel about it. That country is just the people, the land, the culture, the lore of it. It's just, I want to go there so bad. I want to go there so bad. Literally, not gonna lie, 90% of the books on my bookshelf are time travel Scottish romance novels. Not even gonna lie. Just saying. The one thing I am very fortunate about knowing about this past life is I literally know the locations that I experienced my past life in. Not my full life, but like the most prominent part of my life, I know where that is. And that's Sinclair Castle. Sinclair Castle is, or it goes by another name, it's Greenogue Castle, and I'll put pictures and video. Sinclair Castle is a castle that took me years to find, because I've always been attracted to a specific type of castle, and I knew it was in Scotland, and I knew it had to be in the actual Highlands part, not the lowlands, the Highland part. Highland part, for those of you that don't know Scottish geology and culture, Highlands part is the northern Scottish part of Scotland. I don't even know if they use this term anymore, but the lowlands is the southern part of Scotland. I just knew it was in the northern part of Scotland because all the sensory memories I have of it, which explains a lot. All my life, I was always attracted to castles in the north, but the castle had to specifically be on a cliff that was on the ocean. Like it had to be like just a sheer cliff, and then the ocean, and then the castle. Like that's always been like the prominent image in my head of the castle. After years of looking for something similar to that, just so you know, there is a lot of castles in Scotland. So, and a lot of the castles aren't well known either. They're hard to find. So it took me a while to find this castle. Periodically, like before I didn't know the location, I would sometimes, like maybe once a month, like search, like Google Images, trying to look for a specific image of the castle I was looking for. That's how I found it. I was looking I did my usual search, like Scottish castle on a cliff. And I happened to stumble upon a picture of Sinclair Castle, and it was a picture from the ocean angle, so it was looking at the cliffside of the castle. One of the prominent things that I've always known about the castle was that part of it like kind of was built into the cliff. That was one of the reasons why I stopped at that picture and I just stared at it. And like in my heart, I knew that was the place. So like I ended up showing it to the people I shared the life with, and they all had the same reaction of like, oh my god, that's the place. Because I found the location, I could find the history of the castle and pretty much what the time period of when I was around that castle. I found out that it was definitely during the 1400s. That's the 15th century? I don't know. But 1400s was when I was around in that life near that castle. How I narrated it, like I'm not exactly sure the year specifics, but I just know that the particular lord, I don't like it's still the history of that castle is not like always like the history I found on it isn't exactly that clear. It's kind of the stuff I found is wishy-washy. I would have to double check, but I think William Sinclair II was a lord of this castle, and for some reason William II is a very prominent name for me, because at the second part there was William I that was his dad, and then Henry was his grandfather. Pretty much like we think that Henry II was the current lord of that castle when we were around in that life. So like with that, like that's a lord, so his years are gonna be down from like when he was born to when he was dead. So it's just in between like all those years jumbled up. I could probably calculate the exact, not exact years, but like the exact like 50 to 100 year range I was around. So I may do that, I may not. If I do that, here you go. One of the other things that like I know for the time range for the 1400s is because the certain dress I'm drawn to is particularly a 14th century dress style. It's technically called a kirtle dress. Corsets weren't a thing back then, so you had to have like this weird tight thing going on that would like squish everything to make everything like work, and those were called kirtle dresses. And those particularly I've always been drawn to. So there's those. So that's another evidence point of how I know it was in the 14th century range. If I keep saying 14th century and it's actually something else, I apologize. So there's your history lesson. And I'm gonna put in like videos of the castle so you can be like, oh, that's where it is. And then pictures of all the shit I was talking about. Onward to who I actually was. And fuck, I love her so much. She literally is me. Like me and her, we have the same personality, but I would probably have the same but very similar personality to her if I didn't have severe anxiety and severe depression. I would probably be very much like her. Not as shy. Well, she was a little shy. I think she was okay in social situations, and she wasn't shy all the time with first encounters with other people, but she could be shy at times if she wanted to be. I think she was more shy in particular when she was younger. Oh god. She is fucking great. Her name is Margaret, Margaret I know because, for one, I've always been drawn to M names for her. I went through Marjorie, Margaret, any other Scottish medieval name that they could make up, but Margaret was definitely the one that stuck out the most. And also talking to the other people that I shared the life with definitely confirmed that Margaret was her name. I'm not positive on what her last name was. I don't think it was Sinclair, but I know I was definitely related to the Sinclair Clan, or Sinclairs. For those of you that don't know, in Scotland history, clans were a thing. Scottish people were definitely very much about the blood and then families, and just because of that, a lot of the time clans kind of warred against each other. I don't know a lot of history about the Sinclair Clan, but it's definitely a well-known clan. Probably one of the, right now in particular, because of Outlander, probably the most well-known clan is the Mackenzie clan. But there's a lot more than just Sinclairs and Mackenzies. There's McGregor, and McGregor is another name that's always stood out to me. I don't know why. Maybe that was my last name. I don't know. Margaret is definitely... She... God damn it, she's fucking great. I'm gonna keep repeating that, but there's some things that I just look back on and I'm like, damn. She was fucking ballsy. For a woman in that century, holy shit. She was a modern woman that was stuck in that century, because holy shit. Some of the shit that she did, damn. I'll get to the shit that she does, because some of it is hilarious. Not gonna lie. Her physical appearance is literally, I know this is very ironic, but she kind of literally looks like Merida from Brave. She had curly red hair. I'm not even joking. That was her hair. And it's just funny because that's the stereotype with Irish and Scottish people is red curly hair. And she had red curly hair. It wasn't as big as Merida's. I'll put up pictures of I found that really remind me of how she looked, particularly her hair. It was naturally curly, and it was, for some reason, I've always been drawn to the hair combination with eye color, red hair with green eyes, and I didn't know why. And then I found out that she had red curly hair and green eyes. So it just, everything about her makes everything about things I feel and sense in this life makes sense. It's crazy. Her body type was definitely the same as mine, definitely not as plus size. She probably was the same body type as I was when I was in sophomore to freshman year. Freshman, sophomore year. I wasn't skinny, by all means, but I guess I was skinny. But I was not terribly skinny, but I was definitely a C cup, but pear-shaped, so I had thighs and hips. That's what I picture her as. She definitely had thighs, and she definitely had large hips. I know that for sure. Boob size, I know for a fact that none of my female past lives had boobs as big as mine right now. She was just so beyond her time at the time. I don't even know why I said it like that, but you know what I meant. She was pretty much like Merida. She didn't follow rules. She did her own thing when she wanted to do it. She didn't abandon all chores and stuff, but she did do what she wanted to do. And that really showed with her sexual adventures in that life. But shit, okay, she did something that would probably be seen as like the sin among sins back then. But to me, her reasoning and why she did it is fucking brilliant to me. And it would probably be really brilliant to a lot of other modern women nowadays. I don't know when she did this, but she ended up taking her own virginity away with, like, herself. She did it herself. And her reasoning, oh, this is the Scottish in her that I love. Her reasoning was she didn't want any man to take that away from her. It was hers and that's it. And I'm just like, oh my god, I fucking love her. Oh my god. That reasoning is like, damn. Like, taking your own virginity away with yourself is because it's yours. It speaks to me on a personal level. That particular act definitely shows her personality. Like, she was no one's and she wanted to stay that way. And oh god, I love her so much. Somebody keeps saying that. I'm not 100% sure what her class was, but I think she could be slightly highborn, but somehow not. I'm still unclear of how that all works. Because I know she was a cousin of a noble, which makes her highborn, maybe? I don't know, maybe there's something about the marriage thing that didn't make her highborn. I don't know. I think she was technically a noble, but I don't know. She was like, she didn't act highborn, like, obviously, because, like, she took away her own virginity, so it's just like, she didn't give two shits, honestly. Which, honestly, if you go back and look at that century she was in, that they valued virginity and marriage, and like they valued that a lot. And I think that was part of the reason why she took it away herself, because, like, bitch, I may be forced into marriage, she wasn't, but, like, virginity is her own to take, so it was her way of rebelling, I think, which honestly was great. I wanted to particularly discuss the sensory memories of that life. Like, yeah, a lot of sensory memories of that life. I've always been drawn to that sound of when an ocean wave crashes against a cliff. Like, that sound in particular has always been so soothing to me, and it's always been so important to me and so soothing. Then because of where the castle is located, she definitely, water splashing against the cliffside was definitely a norm for that life, because she was around it all the time. Really, really strong wind was another sensory memory. Funnily enough, ever since I was little, I've always loved the wind. I've loved how it feels on my skin. I love how it blows my hair around. I love everything about it. Probably to a lot of people with longer hair, they're probably thinking, like, what the fuck, are you crazy? But, like, I've always liked the feeling of wind on my skin and on my face. It was just always something I loved as a kid because of that life and all the wind I experienced in that life. It was just a part of my being in that life that kind of just worked itself in there, that I started to love about that location. It's also because of that life that I love fucking rain. Rain is amazing. Rain, oh my god. I researched the weather for that particular location. It's funny. I have city weather. I have a weather thing for a town like 5 miles away from the castle called Wick. Wick is definitely a town I want to go to when I eventually visit Scotland. And it's gonna happen. I will visit Scotland if it's the last thing I fucking do. It's gonna happen. But Wick is definitely the closest town to Sinclair Castle. And I actually, right now, I'm looking at it, it's 46 degrees in Wick right now. And there's a 40% chance of rain in 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. Or no, it's not this time, but like apparently in an hour there, it's gonna maybe rain because there's a 40% chance of rain. So I really like cloudy days. And for anyone who knows Scotland, cloudy days is kind of the norm there. So it's just something I love. I know I'm a Southern California baby, but like cloudy days and rain are just so soothing for me because I don't particularly like the sun. I don't like being hot. I would rather be cold. Just saying, that's how I prefer it. So, like, a lot of the sensory memories is weather memories. There was a lot of wind, a lot of salty smell in the air, lots of rain, lots of cloudy days. Like, I know for a fact that there's a certain smell around that area that definitely, I've never experienced that smell yet, but if I go there, I'll definitely recognize that smell in the air, and I'll probably be like, that's the scent. I need to put that in a candle so I have it everywhere with me. I'm not even gonna pretend that there was a time skip in this video. Yeah, I was filming way too much that one session of this first half of this video. I kind of cut it in half, and this is the second half, and we have a friend joining us for this part. His name is Fred. He's new, and he's hanging out. You've met Fred. Now we're getting on with the rest of the past life. Yay. Onward to the actual people involved in that past life, because there's a lot of people, significant people in that past life that just very, very important. I'm not gonna name anyone for this life, mostly because this is the life that I know so much about, and it's also the life that has some stuff in it I don't think that people will like to be attached to. Let's just say particularly 2 good friends are in this life, and another person I have yet to meet in this life is also extremely important in this particular past life. I know, this is terrible, but the main characters of this past life is me equaling Margaret, a childhood friend who is named Elizabeth in that life, who was that cousin I told you about earlier in this video. We ended up being really close, like almost sisters in that life. Like, we were together at a very, very young age, so we trusted each other very much. And then there was Duncan, who was an important part in this life. And then there was William. William is that person I have yet to meet in this life, but it was extremely important. Okay, Elizabeth is that cousin I told you about. She was definitely a lot more noble than I was, or at least acted more noble, and she had more obligations because she was of noble blood. Yeah, I know her blood was a lot more pure. If I was a noble, she was a higher noble than I was. So she had an obligation to be married off, and that unfortunately happened. I'm only explaining the characters. I'm only explaining the people. I'm not gonna go into the actual memories just yet. Elizabeth was definitely she was what you could say is mysterious in that life. she was definitely older than me and Duncan. I was the youngest of the three, Duncan was in the middle, and then Elizabeth was older. Me and Duncan were kind of the same age, but I think he was older. Elizabeth was very obligated to be married off, and that's what happened, blah blah blah. And I'll get to those memories because they're sweet memories with me and Elizabeth. Jesus Christ. Compared to how she is in this life, my friend who was Elizabeth in this past life, I can definitely sense similarities of how they are in both this life and that life. They're definitely both kind of fire-spirited, I guess. They're both very fierce and fiery, and they're not afraid to be themselves. Elizabeth less so, because she was so obligated to be this like noble image, but she was still herself. And there was a thing about her I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around that seems almost fantasy, out of like a comic book or like a fictional novel about her, but I kid you not, this is a real thing that happened. And I'm not going to tell you the real thing about Elizabeth yet, but it was a real physical thing that Margaret was the only person that she felt comfortable enough to tell. Margaret being so like me, so adaptable and so accepting and not judgmental, she held that secret and she didn't judge Elizabeth for it at all. There was even occasions where Margaret helped Elizabeth because of it. They were close. They were really close. And funnily enough, Duncan was Margaret's first crush. First love, first crush. When they were younger, like preteens, Margaret definitely had a crush on Duncan. Duncan was literally your atypical Scotsman, pretty much. God damn it. He was, funnily enough, the stable boy, I guess. His father worked with the castles, or like the horses. His main job was with horses. Duncan was raised around horses his whole life, so his pet, like, he was very familiar with horses and shit. I didn't exactly find out how, but I know Duncan was only raised by his dad. I think I was told what happened to his mother, but I can't remember it right now. I just know that the mom wasn't around to raise Duncan, and Duncan was an only child. So Duncan was definitely a commoner compared to Margaret and Elizabeth, but Margaret didn't care, honestly. It's just funny because you think back then in those times that, like, obviously, like, the noble girl is gonna form a crush on the stable boy, and that's exactly what happened. Oh, I wanted to describe what each of them look like. Obviously, as they got older, they changed in appearance. Margaret, I already told you her appearance. Elizabeth was definitely taller and skinny. I don't remember exactly what her shape was, but I just know particularly she was tall and thin. And I remember particularly, like, this is, I think it's my memory, but I remember this image of her in a nightgown. She had really, I don't know if it was like dark brown hair, almost black, but it was like black, dark brown hair, but like it was like long, straight, dark hair. I think she had dark eyes too. I'm not really sure. I think she was that combination of dark hair and light eyes. I'm not sure, but like nevertheless, like Elizabeth was like fucking gorgeous. I'm not gonna lie. She was fucking hot. Just saying. Duncan was, not gonna lie, kind of the atypical pretty boy. He was blonde and blue-eyed. atypical pretty boy, and since he was a stable boy, he was definitely more athletic looking and also just like physically. But I do know when Duncan got older, he did grow a beard eventually. If I remember correctly, Duncan definitely had like, he didn't have long hair, but he had like shoulder length hair, I guess. I don't remember, like probably as long as Jamie's hair when you first meet him, maybe a little longer in Outlander. Oh, another thing about Elizabeth that I'm not sure on, but I think the reason why she was of higher noble blood is because she was the daughter of William Sinclair II. I think that's what her dad was, because I think that the Lord of Sinclair Castle was her dad. I think it was William II, if I'm correct. It's not really clear how many kids William II had, but I went to a genealogy website and I did find at least, I think, 1 or 2 children he had that were named Elizabeth. At least one that was named Elizabeth. Either way, evidence is kind of there that like she did exist. I don't know who my parents are in that life, so I can't really track my genealogy that well. Elizabeth is a lot easier to track because she was the daughter of a lord. Then there was William. I did explain, yes, that Duncan was Margaret's like first love, first crushed type of guy. She did end up marrying another guy who was named William, and William was her husband in that life. I'm telling you right now that the love that she had for him was so fucking strong that I feel like I love this William even though I never knew him. It's that fucking strong and that fucking there. The fact that he is named William fucking boggles my mind, because I have always been so fucking fond of the name William. Not Will or like any kind of side off of William, but like the name William I've always had this connection with, and I never knew why. That much of a fucking connection that I was actually planning on naming my first son William. Like I still fucking plan on, when I have my first son, I am going to name him William. I don't fucking care who my husband is or what he says. I don't fucking care. My first son is going to be named William, and there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's going to happen. William in that life was definitely something else. In my opinion, he was patient, he was kind, he 100%, I know for a fact, loved Margaret with all his heart. He was so important to her, and he is weirdly, strangely important to me in this life. It's one of those things where for some reason I have this feeling that I will eventually meet the reincarnation version of William in this life. I have yet to find him, but I have this overwhelming feeling that he's there, that he's out there somewhere. I'm just gonna tell you what William looks like, because he was definitely fucking hot. Even in the standards of today's world, he was fucking hot. He definitely had longer hair, if I remember correctly. He had longer hair that was the same color as mine. So like long dark hair. If I'm correct, he either had like grayish eyes, I think he had light eyes, that or he had dark brown eyes. But I get this feeling that he had gray eyes. I don't know if I'm correct, but it's just a feeling I have. His hair was definitely the most prominent thing about him. it's just funny because I know in this life I've never really been attracted to longer hair. Fuck it, I'm just gonna make the comparison right now. Okay, for those of you that don't remember my Drunk Kitten video where I talk about internet crushes, in that video I mentioned that I had a crush on Brock O'Hearn, and the reason why I still have a fucking crush on him, the deep reason why I have a crush on him is because he reminds me of William so much. The hair looks exactly the same. If Brock like dyed his hair really dark or like dark brown, literally the same as William. He looks so much like him, and partly why I'm so attracted to him, because he looks so much like William. And I know that's kind of bad, but it's the deeper reason why I know I have a crush on Brock. Like, if you need a reference of how fucking hot William was, he looked very similar to Brock. I know William definitely had a more angled, strong jaw, very masculine jaw. He was definitely a lot more muscularly built than normal, I think, back then. He was definitely kind of, if I'm being honest, he was definitely built like Brock, but I don't think as bulky. I don't think. Probably if you go to like a younger picture of Brock, that's probably what William looked like when like Brock was like more leaned out. I'll probably put a reference picture for you to like have an idea. I know for sure William was not as tall as Brock is, because Brock is just like fucking insanely tall. But I do know that like William was at least 6 foot to 6'3". He was in that range of height. So he was definitely taller. I'm going on about how hot William is because he was fucking hot. Not saying Duncan wasn't hot, because I know for sure Duncan was hot as well. And also, if I remember correctly, William was older. He wasn't like extremely older, but I know at least I think I met him when I was 15 or 16, like teenage years. And he was probably, at that age, I think he was probably 20 or 21. So he was older. He was definitely older. Which, if you think about it, that was fucking normal back then, because everyone married younger back then, so it was considered fine. I do know that like Margaret, Duncan, and Elizabeth, we all knew each other at a much younger age. Margaret ended up meeting William when she was older, so William was definitely in her life later. I still don't remember how Margaret and William met. Knowing them, they probably met somewhere in like a near forest or like in the fields or something, because I know they both have a fondness for horses, and I know Margaret would regularly take a horse from the stables and go ride somewhere. That's mostly the reason why I really fucking want to learn how to ride a horse in this life. I'm very familiar with horses because one, my aunt is still owning horses, so I am very familiar with horses. So I know horses, but I've never really learned, and I want to learn really fucking badly. One last thing that you should probably know about William that was the most prominent thing about his personality. He was very, very fucking quiet. Probably one of the things that attracted me to him, because like since he didn't talk, he seemed kind of mysterious to Margaret, and Margaret kind of found that attractive. I would find that attractive as well, because I don't know why, probably because of William, but I find quiet guys who are masculine and hot and muscular and just hot, who are kind of quiet, extremely attractive. I know that's weird, but like William was like that, and I know that's the main reason why I find that attractive. But I need to point that out because that's a strong thing that will come up later. I think I'm gonna end this video here for part 1 because I am starting to physically feel not okay because I've been filming for so long. This is gonna be a 2-part video because there's just too much to pack into one video. So I'm gonna cut the videos in half and I'm gonna put the actual memories in another video, part 2 video. So yeah, you're gonna have to wait for that. The best part, I feel like shit. So I'm gonna end the video here. Okay, bye guys.